are going to discuss the nasopulmonary drug delivery system. So in this session, we are going to discuss pulmonary drug delivery system. So this is a disclaimer for the viewers. So in the last session, we have discussed the formulation of pulmonary drug delivery devices, and in the today's session, we are going to cover the pulmonary delivery devices which are widely used to deliver the pulmonary formulations to the lungs. So let us see the pulmonary delivery devices. Pulmonary delivery devices which are divided into the three major classes, that is a pressurized metered dose inhalers, that is a pMDIs, then the dry powder inhalers, that is a DPI, and nebulizers and aqueous mist inhalers. The performance of these inhalers, that is the pressurized metered dose inhalers, dry powder inhalers, or nebulizers and aqueous mist inhalers, are depending on the certain properties which are related with the aerosol, which are related with the particles, and which are related with the physicochemical properties of the drug and the lung properties. So the aerosol properties, we have to suppose to consider the mass median aerodynamic diameter, geometric standard deviation, fine particle fraction, and air particle velocity. In the case of particle properties, we have to suppose to consider the volume diameter, bulk density, tap density, shape, and charge. In the case of physicochemical properties of the drug, we have to suppose to consider the solubility and the hygroscopicity. And in the case of lung properties, we have to suppose to consider the geometry of respiratory tree, that is the airway structure and diameter of airway, influence of disease state on airway structure, breathing pattern, mouth or nasal breathing. So these are the things needs to be considered while designing and developing of the drug delivery devices for the pulmonary drug delivery system. So in the pulmonary drug delivery devices, we are going to discuss pressurized metered dose inhalers, that is a pMDI, dry powder inhalers, that is a DPI, and nebulizers and aqueous mist inhalers. Let us see first the nebulizers and the aqueous mist inhalers. Nebulizers and the aqueous mist inhalers, these are furthermore divided into the compressed air jet nebulizers and the ultrasonic nebulizers. Traditionally, we are using the jet nebulizers, and due to certain disadvantages of the jet nebulizers, the ultrasonic nebulizers came into the existence, and there are so many modified devices for the jet nebulizers and ultrasonic nebulizers are available in the market. So in these devices, aqueous or ethanol based solutions are nebulized to the appropriate droplet size required for the inhalation. The required size, that is a 2 to 5 micron. Therapy takes longer with a nebulizer treatment is lasting for 15 to 20 minutes. When we are using the nebulizer, the treatment time, it is approximately 15 to 20 minutes, and which is a much more as compared to the pressurized metered dose inhalers and dry powder inhalers. Drug delivery technique independent, and it occurs during normal tidal breathing. These devices can deliver any drug, including the biotherapeutics, in any dose. So it is possible to deliver the any type of the drug with any dose by using the nebulizers and the aqueous mist inhalers. The main drawback is their size and their lack of portability. The size of the nebulizers, it is somewhat bigger, and the nebulizers are not portable. Let us see the advantages and disadvantages of the nebulizers. First of all, the advantages. Nebulizers do not require patient training, capable of high dose administration in the case of nebulizer, capable of delivering a wide variety of drugs, and capable of delivering the therapeutics. So these are the few advantages of the nebulizers. That is, it do not require patient training, capable of high dose administration, capable of delivering a wide variety of drugs, and capable of delivering the biotherapeutic. Let us see the disadvantages of the nebulizers and aqueous mist inhalers. That is it is having a limited portability. That is the main disadvantage of the nebulizer. Then long treatment regimens and excessive drug consumption when we are using the nebulizers. There may be the wastage of the drug in the case of nebulizers, or when we are using the nebulizers. So these are the certain advantages and disadvantages of the nebulizers. Aqueous mist devices deliver liquid aerosol spray of approximately 50 microliter in a metered fashion. So this is about the aqueous mist devices. Let us move towards the nebulizer types, that is the compressed air, that is the jet nebulizer, and the ultrasonic nebulizers. Let us see the jet nebulizers. Jet nebulizers are based on the Venturi principle, which states that fluid pressure decreases as it passes through a narrow sectional area. Look at the figure. So this is the diagrammatical representation of the jet nebulizer. It consists of, this is the mouthpiece which is connected to the mouthpiece. This is the air inlet. Then here, this is the medication part. So this is the medication. Then medication get converted into the bigger particles, and furthermore the smaller particles in the form of mist. Here it's a baffle, and this is the venturi, and here it's a feeding tube, right? So this is the venturi, isn't it? And here through this nozzle, we have to suppose to pass the compressed air. So the jet nebulizers are based on the Venturi principle, which states that fluid pressure decreases as it passes through the narrow cross-sectional area. And in these nebulizers, airstream moves through a small capillary tube at a high velocity and creating a low pressure that drives the liquid into aerosolized up the capillary tube. The high velocity blast of air carrying the droplets will bump into the baffles. So this is the baffles placed in the different number and position depending on the design of the jet nebulizer. So here I have shown the representative baffle in the figure. So in the case of jet nebulizers, it uses air or oxygen to turn the medication from a liquid into a fine mist or aerosol vapor. Let us see the further details of the jet nebulizers. Again, here I have shown one more representative image for the jet nebulizer, which comprises, this is the pressurized air inlet, that is a feeding tube from the compressor. This is a liquid reservoir containing a drug. This is a small cavity, or you can say it as a capillary. Then this is the primary atomization. This is the baffle, and the medication which is going to be reached from this region to the patient. So this is the mouthpiece, this is the connecting tube, this is the additional inhaled air, and this is the secondary generation, and this is the primary generation of mist. So this is the primary generation of mist, and furthermore, due to baffle, it is going to, again, there is a reduction in the mist size. This is the secondary generation. The impaction of large droplets on these baffles either break them into the smaller size droplets that will leave the nebulizer, or will retain them in the device to be re-nebulized until their size is small enough to leave the nebulizer. Baffles also reduce the velocity of aerosol cloud emitted from the nebulizer, which reduces the impaction in the oropharyngeal region when inhaled by the patient. The main issue with the jet nebulizer are the requirement of the compressor. So here in the case of jet nebulizer, we require the compressor to generate the aerosol. The noise that some of them generate, so the compressor, it is going to generate some noise, and the temperature drop of the liquid in the nebulizer chamber due to the liquid evaporation in the nebulized droplets. So there may be the chances of cooling sensation. So these are the some issues with the jet nebulizers. Let us move towards the ultrasonic nebulizers. Ultrasonic nebulizer, so this is a representative image of the ultrasonic nebulizer. So it comprises this is the piezoelectric crystal which creates the ultrasonic waves. Here it's a high frequency source and this is a power supply. So it requires the electric current. Then this is the medication, right? This is the baffles and here it's air inlet and this is towards the mouthpiece. So as to formulation is going to be inhaled. Here in the case of ultrasonic nebulizer, we are using high frequency waves which vibrate and causes the liquid becomes a fine mist, right? So in this, the sound waves are created due to the vibration of a piezoelectric crystals at a high frequency and creating a crests that break the liquid into the small droplets. Ultrasonic nebulizers are not completely portable because they still need electric supply for the charging. Compared to jet nebulizers, ultrasonic nebulizers are more expensive and tend to increase the temperature of nebulized drug solution. So here when we are using the ultrasonic nebulizer, there may be the chances of rise in the temperature. So it is not possible to deliver the protein and peptide types of the drug by using the ultrasonic nebulizers, which creates the stability problem for the thermolabile drugs. So the ultrasonic nebulizers, they are also less efficient in nebulizing viscous liquids and the suspensions than the jet nebulizers, probably because of the reduced force that is used to atomize the liquid. So it is not possible to nebulize the viscous liquids and the suspensions by using the ultrasonic nebulizers, probably because of a reduced force that is used to atomize the liquid. So this is about the ultrasonic nebulizers. Let us see the device perspectives related with the jet nebulizers and the ultrasonic nebulizers. The variable that needs to be optimized to emit an accurate and a consistent dose with the nebulizers are the volume of drug solution that is loaded in device. So we have to suppose to consider how much volume of drug solution it is loaded into the device or the nebulizer, taking into account its dead volume. Then the viscosity of a drug solution, the airflow and the pressure in the case of jet nebulizer, the tubing, mask and mouthpiece used. We have seen only the basic design, isn't it, for the ultrasonic nebulizers or the jet nebulizers. But we have to suppose to use some additional things, that is a mouthpiece, then maybe the mask, maybe the tubing, and so many other things needs to be considered to optimize the nebulizer performance. In the unoptimized therapy, a large portion of emitted dose from the nebulizer may be lost in the tubing. Yes, because tubing it is attached to the mouthpiece and may remain as a dead volume or be lost in the surrounding area in the case of unvented nebulizers. If the nebulizer it is unvented, the some amount of formulation it is going to be lost, exposing others to aerosol. So the some other persons are going to be exposed to the aerosol formulation in the case of unoptimized therapy. A disadvantage for users of nebulizers is that they have to be assembled. Whatever the whole assembly of the nebulizer is there, we have to suppose to assemble it and loaded with the medication before each use. Then they have to be deassembled and cleaned if they are to be reused. All these steps may be hard to follow for an untrained young or elderly patient. Let us see the formulation perspective related with the nebulizers. The liquid formulation used in nebulizers are cheaper and easier to develop compared to the formulations used in the pressurized meter dose inhalers and DPIs. Already we have discussed the formulation part of the nebulizers. Also, different compatible drug solutions can be mixed and nebulized concurrently. It is possible to deliver more than one drug at a time by considering its compatibility. However, it is important that the droplet size and the dose emitted by a particular device can be altered by change in the viscosity of the solution, and that nebulizer setting should be optimized for each medication. So during the delivery, we have to suppose to optimize the droplet size, we have to suppose to optimize the viscosity in order to get the proper droplet size, and furthermore need to adjust some nebulizer settings so as to the therapy is going to be optimized. So these are the things related with the formulation perspectives. Let us see some examples of the nebulizers. Very first design, that is the breath enhanced jet nebulizers, such as PERI-LC. So this is a design for the PERI-LC, and this is the design for the PERI-LC Sprint. So the breath enhanced jet nebulizer, such as a PERI-LC, that is a jet plus nebulizer, is a modified to allow for air entrainment during inspiration and to vent the expired air outside the device. The main advantage of this approach is to increase the output rate, which in turn will decrease the administration time. So in the case of PERI-LC, so this is the device. It is a breath enhanced jet nebulizer. It is a modified to allow for air entrainment during the inspiration and to vent the expired air outside of the device. The main advantage of this approach to increase the output rate, which in turn will decrease the administration time. So these are the various designs which are available in the market, that is PERI-LC and PERI-LC Sprint. The another example of the breath actuated nebulizers, such as aero eclipse. So this is the aero eclipse. It is going to emit aerosolized droplets only when the patient inhales. So during the inhalation only, this device, that is the aero eclipse device, it is going to aerosolize the droplet. Therefore, no drug is wasted during the exhalation, as the case of regular jet nebulizers, and dissemination of expensive or toxic drugs to surrounding environment, it is going to be avoided. So this is a further modification in the breath actuated nebulizers, that is the aero eclipse. Further modification in the nebulizers, that is a vibrating mesh nebulizers, such as PERI-eFlow. So this is the PERI-eFlow device and Omron U22. So PERI-eFlow Rapid and Omron U22 have a mesh plate. So it comprises a mesh plate that when it vibrates through the action of the piezoelectric element, that is these devices are based on the ultrasonic principle. So when it vibrates through the action of piezoelectric element, breaks the liquid into very fine droplets, which increases the volume of aerosol deposited in the alveoli. So this is about the PERI-eFlow and Omron U22. The advanced and efficient vibrating mesh nebulizer is the Akita 2 EpicSnap. So this is the Akita 2 EpicSnap. It has an electronic indicator that shows when the patient is breathing, and approximately, and only then it releases the dose with a droplet size of mass median aerodynamic diameter 4 micrometer and with a minimal drug loss of approximately 1%. So in advanced and efficient vibrating mesh nebulizers such as Akita A2 Apixneb, it has an electronic indicator that shows when the patient is breathing appropriately, and only then it releases the dose with a droplet size of mass median aerodynamic diameter 4 micrometer with a minimal drug loss of less than 1%. So this is about the Akita A2 Apixneb. Then INIB, it is yet another nebulizer which is widely used. So this is the INIB AAD device. AAD stands for the adaptive aerosol delivery. It comprises, this is the mouthpiece, this is the chamber lead with mesh, then this is the medication chamber, and this is the body, and this is the whole product, that is the INIB AAD. So this is another example of the vibrating mesh nebulizers coupled with an adaptive aerosol delivery software. So here we are using the adaptive aerosol delivery software that adjusts the aerosol emission based on the breathing pattern of the patient. So this whole INIB, it is based on the breathing pattern of patient, which reduces drug loss and increases the inhaled mass. This smart device can adjust the dose delivery based on last 3 breaths and provide feedback after dose delivery. So this is about the INIB. Let us see the another nebulizer, that is Aradigum's ERX, is a pre-packed single-use disposable blister packet and with a disposable nozzle. So this is a Aradigum's ERX device which comprises this is the information screen, this is the mouthpiece, then this is the user input buttons and breath control guidance light. It utilizes the piston mechanism to expel the formulation from the ERX strip. So this is the ERX strip, and here we have to suppose to place the formulation. This is the whole strip. It is simple to operate. It is a palm sized and it's a portable. So this is about the Aradigum's ERX nebulizer. Let us see the Respimat. It is yet another device which is used to nebulize the formulation. So this is the device, that is a Respimat. It comprises the cartridge with the dose indicator. Here it's a cartridge counter. This is the back side. Then here it's a clear base, then safety catch, dose release button. Here it's the air vent and the mouthpiece. So this is about the Respimat. Just now we have discussed the various examples of the jet nebulizers and the ultrasonic nebulizers. Let us see the characteristics, advantages and disadvantages of the nebulizers. Very first category, that is the breath enhanced jet nebulizers. So the characteristics of the breath enhanced jet nebulizers are: air flows through the jet resulting in a aerosolization of the drug solution, which is powered by compression. The additional room air carried into the nebulizer during the inhalation causes aerosolization. Drug solution cools during nebulization. Expired air vented outside of the device, and it is available as a tabletop and portable models. The advantages of breath enhanced jet nebulizers are drug delivery during inhalation only, thus less drug wastage and easy to use and quick. The disadvantages of breath enhanced jet nebulizers: sufficient flow required to initiate drug delivery, not ventilator enabled, and more expensive versus conventional jet nebulizers and the ultrasonic nebulizers. For example, Pari LC Sprint, Nebutec HDN, and Sidestream Plus. Let us see the characteristics of the breath actuated jet nebulizers. So airflow through the tube resulting in aerosolization of the drug solution powered by compressor. Aerosolization is triggered by patient inhalation. That's why it is said to be the breath actuated. Available as a tabletop and portable model. The advantages and disadvantages same like the breath enhanced jet nebulizers. For example, Aero Eclipse 2. I think so. It is banned. Then mesh nebulizer characteristics. Piezoelectric crystal vibrate a mesh plate resulting in a aerosolization. Then very fine droplets, not significant change in the temperature of the solution during nebulization, lower residual drug in a chamber versus jet nebulizers. The advantages of mesh nebulizers are fast, quiet, portable and easy to use, self-contained power source, particle size optimized for specific medication, more effective when compared with other nebulizers. The disadvantages of mesh nebulizers are these are expensive, hard to clean, medication dosage requires adjusting, and incompatible with the viscous liquids or liquids that crystallizes on drying. For example, Akita 2 Apex Neb, eFlow Rapid, and Micro Air NEU22. So this is about the nebulizers. So here we have finished the nebulizers. Pressurized meter dose inhalers, most widely used inhalation devices. It is used for treatment of asthma and contains mainly the beta agonist or the corticosteroids. These devices utilizes a number of chlorofluorocarbon propellants to aerosolize and deliver micronized drug suspension. Nowadays, chlorofluorocarbon propellants are replaced with the HFA. When actuated, these pMDIs deliver the aerosolized drug particle at a very high velocities approaching to 30 meters per second. Unless the device actuation is coordinated with the breathing process. So here the actuation and breathing should be coordinated. A large amount of drug impacts at the back of the throat and swallowed. Therefore, the major factor affecting the delivery of drug by this administration route is the inhaler technique. Let us see the advantages and disadvantages of the pMDIs. So pMDIs are convenient, portable and inexpensive. The disadvantages are require patient training, then there may be chances of oropharyngeal deposition if breathing process is not coordinated with the actuation, and there may be the chances of cold sensation due to the propellants. To mitigate the effects of disadvantages of conventional pressurized meter dose inhalers, a number of device enhancements have been developed. So let us see the remaining part of the pressurized meter dose inhalers. Let us see the components of pressurized meter dose inhalers. See the figure, it comprises, this is a canister, then here it's a gaseous phase, this is the liquid phase which comprises the propellant as well as the drug and remaining formulation components. This is the retaining cup, then here it's a actuator, then here it's the actuator nozzle, then this is the high velocity spray, this is the mouthpiece, then here it's the expansion chamber and this is the metering valve. The structural components of conventional pressurized meter dose inhalers are the canister, then the metering valve, actuator and the mouthpiece. The canisters are made up of the inert materials like plastic, stainless steel, glass and aluminum, capable of enduring the high pressure required to keep the propellant gas in a liquid state. Metering valve is designed to deliver a precise aerosol amount 20 to 100 microliter each time the device is actuated. When the inhaler is not used, an inner valve between the canister and the metering chamber is open and allowing the chamber to be filled with the propellant drug mixture in a liquid form. At the same time, another outer wall between the meter chamber and the outside air. Meter chamber means here, and here it's outside chamber is closed. As the patient presses the canister, this is the canister, presses the canister for dose actuation, the inner wall closes. So inner wall, it is going to be closes, while the outer wall opens and releasing the meter drug propellant mixture retained in the chamber through the actuating orifice. So this is the actuating orifice in an aerosol form. Internally, the actuator includes the spray nozzle. So here actuator comprises the spray nozzle and the expansion chamber, in which the released propellant from the metering chamber expands and partially volatilizes due to the decrease in the pressure. So these are the components of the pressurized meter dose inhaler. So in the canister, it comprises the formulation, which includes the active drug, propellant and co-solvents. Then here is the container. So these are the actuator seals. This is the metering wall. So this is the actuator nozzle, right? And here it's the actual principle how the pMDIs are going to deliver the drug, isn't it? Let us see the formulation of pMDIs. pMDI drug formulation can be solutions or the suspension in a single propellant or propellant mixture. It may include the excipients such as ethanol, surfactants to solubilize the drug or stabilize the drug suspension. Ideally, propellant should be non-toxic, non-flammable, and compatible with the formulation and provide consistent vapor pressure during the entire life of product. Chlorofluorocarbons were used as a propellant in the pMDIs for decades, but had a deleterious effect, including the ozone layer depletion. Chlorofluorocarbons were used widely, and it is having some deleterious effect on the environment. So nowadays, the chlorofluorocarbons were replaced by the HFA, that is hydrofluoroalkane type of the propellant in all pressurized meter dose inhalers. However, reformulating the pressurized meter dose inhalers with the HFA propellant was challenging, because again we have to suppose to think about the solubility and all other formulation aspects, often needing to use certain new excipients and the metering valves. Means we have to suppose to think about the design of the pMDIs. Recently, the use of pMDIs has extended beyond bronchodilators and corticosteroids to deliver the proteins, plasmid DNA, and the live attenuated virus vaccines or the bacteriophages. So nowadays, it is possible to use these pressurized meter dose inhalers to deliver the protein and peptide types of the drug, then the plasmid DNA, or the live attenuated virus vaccines or the bacteriophages. Let us see the examples of the pressurized meter dose inhalers, that is a pMDIs. Very first one, that is a breath actuated device, that is the autoinhaler and easy breath. So this is the autoinhaler and this is the easy breath, which is going to improve the coordination problem. Then second one, that is a asthma cort, that is a it is a integrated and add-on, that is a space healer, that is spaces, reduces the oropharyngeal deposition. So here it's a MDI spacer and this is the inhaler. This is the further advancement in the pressurized meter dose inhaler devices. Herewith we have finished the pressurized meter dose inhalers. Let us see the dry powder inhalers. Dry powder inhalers, it is an alternative to the pMDIs. In the case of pMDIs, we are using the solutions or suspension along with the propellants. But in the case of dry powder inhalers, it is a free from CFCs and other harmful chemicals. In these devices, patient inhales micronized drug particle with or without a drug carrier, that is the lactose. DPIs divided into the single dose capsule based device and improved multiple dose device. In the case of single dose capsule based device, that is a Fission inhaler and Glaxo Wellcome's rotohaler. And in the case of improved multiple dose devices, that is a Glaxo Wellcome's dischaler and Discus as well as AstraZeneca's turbohaler. These devices dispense only during inhalation and they require less coordination than the pressurized meter dose inhaler. That is the main disadvantage of the dry powder inhalers. Let us see the advantages and disadvantages of the dry powder inhalers. So dry powder inhalers are convenient, portable, breath actuated, requiring a little patient training and capable of delivering the biotherapeutics. Disadvantages of the dry powder inhalers are requires high inspiratory flow rate as we are delivering the powder. There might be chances of oropharyngeal deposition and difficult to deliver high doses, and there may be chances of irritation of airway due to the dry powder. So these are the certain disadvantages of the dry powder inhalers. So here in the case of a dry powder inhaler, improved powder processing and the use of impellers, that is a Dura pharmaceutical spiros, to assist the patient with the aerosolization, represent attempts at addressing some of the disadvantages of the dry powder inhalers. So some of the disadvantages are being addressed with the help of or by use of the impellers. So the dry powder inhalers are portable device that require minimum patient coordination between breathing and actuation of the device to deliver the powder medication, as already we have seen on the previous slide. DPI drug formulation have a greater chemical stability than the liquid formulation, like in the nebulizers or the pressurized metered inhalers. But manufacturing powders with the appropriate characteristics for easy aerosolization and alveolar delivery is more complicated. Performance of DPI depends on the powder formulation and on the design of the inhaler device. So dry powder inhalers are portable devices that require minimum patient coordination between breathing and the actuation of the device to deliver the powder medication. DPI drug formulation have a greater chemical stability than the liquid formulation, but manufacturing powders with appropriate characteristics for easy aerosolization and alveolar delivery is more complicated. Performance of DPI depends on the powder formulation and on the design of the inhaler device. Let us see the formulation considerations in the DPI. It consists of micronized drug particle ranging between 1 to 5 micrometer blended with an inactive excipient such as lactose, mannitol, trehalose, sucrose, sorbitol, glucose of a larger size, that is a 40 micrometer. The particle engineering approaches are also employed to produce the particles using different core material. The unoptimized powder blends can exhibit interparticulate cohesive forces, that is van der Waals force mainly, which causes particle aggregation, making the powder dispersion very difficult. Drug carrier excipients are added in the appropriate size, which can reduce these such cohesive forces and thereby preventing the aggregation and promoting the flow properties, and as well as we are getting the good uniformity in the dose. Let us see the DPI designs. The Design of DPI heavily influences the performance of the device. To aerosolize the drug powder, individual particles are de-agglomerated by the external forces, and which can be airflow, shear, or particle-particle or particle device impaction. De-agglomeration of particle, it is very important in the case of when we are delivering the powders to the lungs. There are few designs which are available, that is a click heller, then the multi-heller, and the discus are designed to feed the powder into a high speed airflow that splits particle agglomerates and thus achieving respirable particles. So these are the certain devices which are available in the market, that is a click heller, multi-heller, and discus. These are designed to feed the powder into a high speed airflow that split particle agglomerates and thus achieving the respirable particles. Let us see the other designs which are used in the dry powder inhaler. Other devices like turbo heller and the spin heller depend on the impaction between particles and surfaces of the device to de-agglomerate. So this is the turbo heller device and this is the spin heller. A major challenge in the DPI design is to balance between inhaler resistance and flow rate. In early DPIs, rapid airflow was required to increase particle de-agglomeration by creating more frequent and a stronger impaction to achieve a higher fine particle fraction. However, a rapid airflow increases the chances of oropharyngeal deposition and reduces the dose delivered to the lungs. Moreover, high resistance are not suitable for the asthma or COPD patient who already struggle to breathe. So turbo heller and spin heller, these are the other devices or designs which are available in the market to deliver the dry powder. So a major challenge in the DPI design is to balance between the inhaler resistance and the flow rate. In early DPIs, a rapid airflow was required to increase the particle de-agglomeration by creating a more frequent and stronger impaction to achieve a higher fine particle fraction. However, a rapid airflow increases the chances of oropharyngeal deposition and reduces the dose delivered to the lung. Moreover, high resistance are not suitable for the asthma or COPD patient who already struggle to breathe. Let us see the classification of DPIs. So DPIs can be classified by number of doses the device can carry, the patient contribution to aerosolize the powder, or by the mechanism of powder dispersion. So by the number of doses, DPI can be classified as a single unit, multiple unit dose, and multi-dose reservoir. So based on the mechanism for powder aerosolization, DPI can be classified as a passively or actively actuated device. So the dry powder inhalers are classified as a by number of doses and on the basis of mechanism for the powder aerosolization by number of doses as a single unit dose, multi-unit dose, and multi-dose reservoir. And based on the mechanism for powder aerosolization, it is furthermore classified as a passive devices and the active devices. So in the case of single dose DPIs, the dose is supplied in an individual capsule. Before each administration, patient has to load the device with one capsule for a single dose delivery. So the single dose DPIs can further be classified as a disposable or reusable. So this is the single unit dose, that is a disposable device, and is a single unit dose reusable device. In a multi-unit dose DPIs uses factory metered and sealed doses packed so that the device can hold multiple doses at the same time. without having to be reloaded. So in the case of multi-unit dose DPI, it is a factory meter and sealed doses packed so that the device can hold multiple doses at the same time without having to be reloaded. Typically, so this is the multi-unit dose DPI at a time, so many doses which is packed. Typically, the packing consists of a replaceable discs, cartridges, or strips of foil polymer blister packing. The third one, that is a multi-dose reservoir, store the powder in a bulk and have a built-in mechanism to meter individual doses upon actuation. So this is about the multi-dose reservoir. Issues such as the dependence of the dose emission on the flow rate and the moisture uptake from the patient exhalation or the environmental humidity into the reservoir needs to be considered. So let us see the passive DPIs. So we have finished the single dose and multiple dose. Now let us see the passive DPIs. The original passive DPI is a breath actuated device, rely solely on the patient inspiration to provide sufficient airflow for entrainment and deaggregation of the formulation. Device actuation is intrinsically tied to the patient inhalation, thus avoiding coordination issues associated with the pMDIs, pressurized metered dose inhalers. The first passive DPI in the market were rotohaler. So this is the rotohaler device. This is the mouthpiece. This is the rotocap hole. Then here is the fin and base. The second one, that is a spinhaler, which are single dose devices. So in the rotohaler, a capsule with a powder dose is loaded in the device. Upon actuation, capsule gets pierced and an impeller rotates the powder released from the capsule by the inspiratory force of the patient. So in the rotohaler, a capsule with the powder dose is loaded in the device. So through this, we have to suppose to load the capsule. Upon actuation, the capsule get pierced and an impeller is going to be rotated. The powder it is going to be released from the capsule by the inspiratory force of the patient. Let us see the spinhaler. So in the spinhaler, the capsule gets splits into two walls. So this is a spinhaler design. So here it's a rotahaler and here it's a spinhaler. So this is the hard gelatin capsule in the case of rotohaler. Then here it's a dispersion apparatus and this is the mouthpiece. In the case of spinhaler, this is the capsule which we have to suppose to place. Then here is a dispersion apparatus, okay, and this is the mouthpiece. So in the spinhaler, the capsule gets split into two walls and dry powder is released and fluidized when the patient inhales. The main issues with the passive DPI was the lack of uniformity between the inspiratory force among the patients with a different age and disease state, as well as variation in the inspiratory force of the same patient. So this is about the passive DPIs. Let us see the active DPIs. Active DPIs are designed with an internal energy source to aerosolize the powder bed in the DPI so that dose administration is no longer dependent on the patient's inspiratory flow rate. Here we are utilizing the internal energy to aerosolize the formulation. This energy source can be a battery, can be a compressed gas, or a spring mechanism. In active devices, the powder is dispersed by vibration or gas discharge or an impeller. The Spiros device, that is a Dura, has a battery powered motor that disperses the powder by impaction of a rotating impeller to generate aerosol from the powder bed. The motor is activated by a very low breathing rate, which is convenient for asthmatic patient. Another source of powder dispersion, that is a piezoelectric polymer, is introduced in the Oriel device, a multi-dose blister DPI. When the patient inhales, an electrical impulse is sent to the blister, stimulating the piezoelectric polymer, which is incorporated in such a sealed blister to vibrate, ejecting the powder into the flow stream. Active DPIs are easier to use than the passive DPIs. So there are two designs are there. One is a Spiros system, that is he utilizes the battery powered motor, and second one, that is the Oriel device, which utilizes the piezoelectric polymer as a source, which is coordinated with the patient inhalation, which is furthermore going to send the signal, there is electrical impulse to the blister. So this is about the Spiros and the Oriel device in the active DPI. Let us see the thermal vaporization aerosol device, that is a staccato. So this is the staccato device, which comprises the, here this is a plate and which is coated with the drug solution. This is before inhalation, and this plate, it is going to be heated, and which is going to aerosolize the powder, and furthermore it is going to be inhaled, that is after inhalation. So this is a novel breath actuated inhalation delivery system which uses heat to vaporize a thin film of a drug, which later condenses in the lungs into droplets or particles depending on the nature of drug. The drug is dissolved in a volatile solvent or a solvent mixture, which is sprayed over a metal substrate such as a zinc halides. Thermally stable and with a low melting point, drugs are suitable to deliver by using the thermal vaporization aerosol device. It delivers the condensed aerosol deeply into the lungs with a fast onset of action, making it suitable for systemic delivery. It is used for the smoking withdrawal symptoms. It is going to be used to deliver the nicotine, and in the case of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, it is used to deliver the loxapine. The device which is available, that is a Adasuve. So this is the Adasuve device which comprises battery to initiate the heating. This is the plate on which the drug it is loaded. There is a heat package, okay, and this is the mouthpiece. So this is about the thermal vaporization aerosol device, staccato and Adasuve. So herewith we have finished the drug delivery devices for the pulmonary drug delivery system. We have discussed the nebulizers, we have discussed the pressurized metered dose inhalers, we have discussed the dry powder inhalers.